sketch it out first. We're just looking at the shape of the lemon in terms of like, it's just a lemon, right? But it's sitting on this nice, and then same with here. And that's basically a gestural drawing. All that's doing is taking the panic out of your head to begin with. Using one brush so that it is nice and bright to begin with. And even though that will not match with what you see necessarily there, it's going to get our first color down. So we're going to follow it down. Now, I really did make a mistake of using the pen because the pen is going to come through, but that's okay. So here we have our lemon. So we're just filling in the shape. And even there'll be a little bit coming down into the shadow. You can imply that it's there even if we paint over it. Clean your brush. Orange. So that's your first cue in the primary color wheel. We're moving to the secondary color wheel by mixing an orange using the two primary colors, red and yellow. Then we're going to clean our brush and we're going to mix a really light version of that by using yellow, not white. We're going to pull the paint from one color into the other. Roll it off your brush, and then we're going to take some more yellow. We're going to mix a lighter version of that again. So we get into the tertiary color wheel, which is basically primaries number 1, secondaries number 2, tertiaries number 3, and it goes on and on. We make a lighter version of both the colors. So we'd also mix a red tint on that. We'd mix another one of that. But you start to get, this is all coming from your primary colors, even if the grade of the paint is absolutely your version that we had. And we're looking just at really the darker areas of the lemon. And the only issue really you'll have here is when we paint fast. I like to teach you to paint fast because you're probably here because you want to get out of the rut of painting so intricate and getting lost in the detail. We paint fast, we paint with one brush because that is our way. And then we're going to go for that darker orange, and all you're doing now is just layering it. So you're looking at where your really dark points are. So this is the middle orange we're using right now. And you can see here, there's a little bit of a curve, comes down. So we're going to plant on more of that one. And right at the top, bringing it in. I have loads of paint on my brush here. And in the middle. There we go. Then roll that off. And we're going for the really, really dark version. And we're going to plant it on. Second. So that you can see where it is darkest. So I'm looking at the lemon. I'm also looking kind of in the screen as well to you. But it looks nothing like a lemon. So you're like, oh my goodness, what is this? So let it sit for a second. Now we're going to go on to the nice blue background. Take a big chunk of blue and a little bit of yellow. And we're going to change that color so that it's a little bit more turquoisey. I'm going to keep it on the blue turquoisey scale. There we go. Now we're going to take this dreadful white. The reason I say dreadful white if you've just joined is because it is my white from my workshops. Like the toddler workshops. So they don't care, but I want them to learn how to use acrylic paint. So what we've done there is we've had our blue and a little bit of yellow, and that takes off this. Sorry, my camera has gone over here. Make this blue less stark. You just add a little bit of yellow, not white. You will add white in the end, but I think it's a bit like toothpaste. But we're going to just take that. Even just a little second to let it settle into the canvas. The canvas will grip onto it. This is just a canvas board I'm using. It doesn't even matter. Oh, goodness gracious. I'm just applying the paint on. Not bothered, clearly, if it goes on top of what is already there. And then because we can't really see the end of what is here with the books, we're going to just imply that it's there. So we're just going to finish that off. And if you were here for the demo about with the peonies, or if you're on TikTok, you can look back. There's a 20-minute demo I did last week, and we were doing the flowers in a glass vase. So you're looking to see where the blue comes down. So the blue comes down, and underneath it, a very, very dark blue there. We'll get to that. Oh, go back to the color that we've got for this here. We will be doing dark in a second with it. But it's the same thing with underneath here. This is our book. So we have over here, it's not a book, it's a table, but you can see that just along there, it is darker, and down here it is white. But I'm just getting used to my home studio because it's more for my admin. I have a walking pad behind me, which I actually thought that would be really fun to do a walking demo for you sometime, wouldn't it? Hilarious. So I'm going to just move this so I can see. You see what I mean there? So we have the edge of it. So we're going to take some water onto our brush and take a big bit of white, and we're just going to mix that white in whatever blue is on your brush. Behind is reflected, especially if it's a white page that's in front. So we're going to go over that wee bit of yellow that's there. We're going to fill in this nice light blue. Right to the edge. And then down there at the front is even brighter. So I'm just taking the white on my brush and putting it straight on. I'm going to let that light bit go there. And we've already started to plant it being a little, I'm going to turn this down slightly. Yeah, that's better. We can already see that there's an object here and it's floating in some sense, but just fill in all those bits. There's little bits that are lighter, little bits that are darker. Good. Now, the background, we've actually been able to match it really, really well. But let yourself take whatever's on that brush there. You're going to roll it off. Give your brush a clean. And we're going to take some blue into one side of it. So we're going to pull that blue back in. But it's really not the color that we want. So we're going to take a little bit of our black. And that changes it and just makes that darker shade, which we're going to match with just behind here. So make sure your brush is really clean. I'm going to take a little bit darker. So you're really working into the navies now. And that is fill in. This is where, again, your loose painting comes in because you've got your bigger brush, so you can't get caught up in the detail. But I'm just going to basically go like so, because I'm looking really intently at where it is dark. Dark there. And then we have kind of coming up here. This will start to frame what you've got. So change it slightly by bringing a little bit of it into the lighter version that's there. Roll the paint off your brush. Very, very slightly different, but enough that you're looking at, because of the way the light is, the light will be the darkest bit and then it gets lighter as it goes up above it. And we want there to be that kind of ovally shape in behind. So we're going like so, and then you just pull the two paints together. Let's let them be. But there is going to be other shades here, and because we still have wet paint on the blue, it's quite nice because you can bring that up, soften it in, take a little bit of water, use your water, not too much. But it's a bit like whenever you're painting the sea or the sky, it's not all one color. Okay, I'm going to just change that a bit to see over here. There we go. Okay, I'm back to the very darkest bit again, and I'm over here and I'm going to imply that this dark bit comes, although it's more. This is the end of our table down here, so I really should have done that. That's okay. So I'm going to do like so. I'm going to take that real dark bit and let it come here and let that go there. And then I'm going to clean my brush really well. And I'm going to take a big chunk of white and just try to blot out here, because this is actually the table. This is the beauty of painting live. You're like, whoopsies, that's not what I see. When I get my camera crew, I'll have somebody on close up, somebody on behind. Okay. Here, with this dirty colored blue that we have, we're then going to fill in a little bit more detail here. Everything is about layers. Everything's about layers. And also, if things go wrong, does not matter. I'm actually pulling a little bit of that dark in to start the shadow right underneath our lovely lemon. And then over here too. Everything is darker than you think. It's like whenever you're painting snow, there'll always be this yellow tinge off it. Yeah, my kids love when I talk about that, because it's like I'm taking some white now again, and I'm just going to add in another wee layer at the front here. There'll always be a yellow tinge to it or a blue tinge to it, and that's just the way it is. Good. So we're getting a little bit more depth here. I'm going to take some of this white paint that's on my brush, and I'm going to take it on here with some water so that we have this nice, a lighter version. And if you use the water, then you see you still get this nice lighter shade coming through. And I have not got my kitchen towel. Where did it go to? Oh, great. Okay, I'm going to use my finger then. Okay, so this is where we are going to smooth this out. You're kind of lifting in here. It's starting to come together. We want to now go back to, there's a little bit of drying has happened here. So clean your brush really well with your party plate, party cup. Settling into it now. So you can see as we hold this up that this one is very like the color of the lemon when you see it. So we're going to take some of the lighter version into that and mix it really well. Let it come to a real solid color. Roll the paint off your brush. Another step in your journey of painting looser and letting go of other people's judgment and expectation is, you see the way there's little bits of blue strand coming through? That never bothers me, unless it's really, really strong. What you're actually doing is you're creating a little bit of harmony in your painting. So it can be really overwhelming, so we're going to just plant over what is already there, all on the left-hand side mainly. Good, and we're starting to smooth it out then. You can see it's smoother. And we're going to take more of that color. Make sure you have enough paint. It's lighter over here. And then underneath here. And then up here. So just a wee bit of water on your brush. And you're just letting the colors come in and merge together. Lovely. Okay. Now, we want let there be a little bit more browny tinge to it. So we're going to take a little bit of blue into this reddy orangey that we've got. Look, really, and then we're rolling off whatever paint is on there. So you're getting really dark into the contrast of what we've got, right? And this is where we're going for up here. You'll see at the top of where this orange is already planted. So everything is layers. And when you use this brush that is the flathead brush, you get the nice thicker marks on it. So I'm going to plant that down, take it right to the edge. And the same with under here, you'll see there's a mark there. And then that kind of comes up. So softening into it. You know I paint fast, but I still like you to Know what you're doing. Whatever's left there, take a little bit if you need it. I'm going to go over to the very far side. I'm planting in that little bit there, and then this very tiny wee, you'll need a bit more paint for that. Just this little guy here, the very edge. Now, take that, whatever you have on there, and just mix it in. Pull a little bit more of that lighter lemon yellow in. Remember that if you've got to this stage and you're like, I am stuck, I am overwhelmed, we're painting fast, and you are mixing all these colors from your primary colors, which is absolutely amazing. So we'll see the top here of the lemon as well. You've got that darker shade. So this is slight grade darker again. And we're going to come in nice and smooth. It'll pick up some of the other paint that was there to begin with. I'm going to also go over this light bit here in the very middle and smooth out here. So we get a little bit more depth. Make sure there's enough water on your brush so that you can make these lines along here nice and smooth, defined. And then up over here, this is a little bit too bright, so I'm going to take that color. I'm actually going to mix some more of it while we're here. So we're taking this lighter color into this, but we can bring in some of, they're all made from the same base. So you'll still get the tones, even if you're using the darker version. So this time I'm just rolling the paint off, rolling the paint on, wax off here. And then just over here, I wanted to make this a little bit more. Actually, that needs the darker bit. So there, before we finish with this nice color, bring in a little bit of it in here. Up there. So clean our brush. Sitting back, have a little look at it. What is it we need to work on? We need to get all our lights in now. And also I want to define around here because it looks a bit funny, I think. So we're going to go back to the dark, which was black and a little bit of blue. I have both of those on here. I'm going to mix them in, a bit too much black. Always tentatively use the black paint. Black paint is so dominant, but this is quite nice. I quite like that this is even darker. So I'm going to load up here with this, and I'm going to work back in where we were because it'll have dried too. So I'm going to define where that dark line was again, because that will make everything pop and move forward. And then I'm going to come up and around the lemon. So just taking my time, I'm going to shorten it. I think that's what the problem is here. So I'm lifting the paint off. I'm actually, I'm not fussy, but there's some things I am fussy with. And it's like, if you have all these paints and they merge in together, it really bothers me. We don't need this to be as dark up here. So revisit and mix whatever's on your brush into that lighter version again. And then we come in to here and around. So we want there to be that. You'll see how it's all layers. I feel like I'm constantly just reminding people that it's all to do with layers. And it doesn't even matter if that's a wee bit. See, there's a wee bit of like a gap there. It really is fine. So take a little bit of water on your brush. Take a little bit of that excess paint off. And then we're back in here for this shadow again. We're just pulling it out. It's that classic case of if you look at something long enough, you will start to see, and then I'm going to come over here, you'll start to see the colors and the depth. But we don't give ourselves time. Everything in today's society is quick, fast-paced. What I'm doing now is just bringing it over here, although it's not the most defined on the other side, but we want there to be enough of, I'm going to just move this back slightly and mix that really dark shade again that we had. So you're on the navy scale right now, which is lovely. And if we move this, you can see underneath is really dark, and we're going to keep it so it's nice navy. But that will again make everything else pop whenever we get. The darkest should be the darkest. There we go. And then there on the other side. Then clean your brush, use whatever is on that to pull. Here's a wee bit of white. You can have the white that's on your actual palette, or we're in this nice grey zone now. And that's going to be over here. So start to pull these two together. You can bring their dark back up, what it looks like. There we go. But it will set the tone. Let yourself sometimes commit to the darker. So you see here underneath, I'm going to let that be dark too. And then I'm going to let, you'll see at the front there is, that's where the shadow is as well. And over here. That's just planting where it is nice and dark. And then this needs to be, because it's crinkled paper. So clean your brush. Big bit of white on your brush. And you can just actually let whatever paint is on there. If you've just joined, this is not my highest grade of white. So you won't get that really bright, solid titanium white shade, but that's okay. Here, so I'm going more for the brights over here, and then filling in, I'm going to bring in a little bit of that grey into it. Here, like so. But you don't need to spend too long on this. We're just planting and implying all that this is here. So even if we go over, there we go, and there's still a little bit of shadow under there. Good, I'm actually pretty happy with this. It's just over here, just feels a little bit mess because it's kind of not really where I want my focus to be, but that's okay. You can use your fingers to smudge in a little bit in that, because really this could be a tablecloth, which will be softer. So when it's softer, there's not as sharp, those edges, but I'm just bringing in a few greys here to define that that's the end of the books that it's sitting on. Okay, and the same with here. It's a lot of play. I'm going to come up there to where it is balancing. It comes to a very small kind of point, and we need that yellow paint again, white paint again, sorry. I just looked at the yellow paint when I said that. So white, and we're going to come in and over it. So there is where your layers start. If ever there was, you think it's about the lemon, but it's about everything around the lemon, because you're painting a picture, quite literally. You're painting the picture, you're setting the scene. You don't need every detail to be there, but you need to kind of know what's happening. Okay. They're enough of an impression, but we don't need to give every detail. So I think we're going to come back to our yellows now that there's a little bit. Maybe we'll finish in here actually a bit. This is a bit more defined. So looking at these lighter shades over here. So you'll see on this palette actually, there's all my different shades of grey. That's what we're going to work with. First of all, I'm going to pull them all into the one shade. And I'm going to smooth them down here so that we bring this back. I'm going to go right up in there as well and underneath the lemon. Remember we were saying before about this comes into this like curve shape. You want there to be enough of a contrast. So we're going to go nice and light in there. It's good. And then we want to be the dark again. Moment in time, and it's your impression of it. Doesn't need to be like the end of the world if it doesn't feel like, oh my goodness, I just don't get it. Everything is trial and error. So here we're going to come in here now to where these darkest bits are. And let that bit go like so. A little bit more over here where there's a wee crease. So back to that really, really dark. I didn't clean my brush. You probably should there. But you'll see in underneath here is where it's the darkest. And if you were using oil paint, this is a really satisfying point that we have where you'd be applying on. But lovely, that just automatically makes it more secure. So like the flowers I'd started to say earlier, it's like whenever you're painting the flowers, you don't want them to be totally floating in space. And the same with this, you don't want it to be totally floating in space. So we've got that nice dark underneath it. And then we're going to use the really dark color there for the end of the lemon in here. There's actually a wee spot in under there with it too. Clean your brush really well. You might need clean water at this stage. So back to these lemons that we had, and we're going to bring some just bright lemon yellow into that lighter version of the yellow that we had. A little bit of the orange in there too, just gradually pulling it in. So we have this nice bright, and then you're going over where you see it is nice and light. So we have it nice and light over here. And it just lifts it for this last bit. It's a bit like if you were doing it with if you were with your bright white. Just using my finger to smudge it. Let me take this down again a little bit. There we go. So we have the lighter bit over here too. There we go. And then over here, any of the brightest bits you can see. And then we're going to bring this in a little bit brighter too. So we're going to blue into our orange, whoopsies. Now I've gone way too dark. Do as I say, not as I do. Blue, mixing that nice brown. So blue, red and yellow are what's going to mix you nice browns. So we can go over the little pip there at the end, and then I really wanted to bring that into the yellow, but it went a little bit skewy for me. That's okay. Softening up here. There's a bit coming around the back there. That makes it into more of a shape. And then we have underneath here. But here's where I want to soften a little bit. That's what I was meaning before. So I'm going to take some fresh yellow into that brown. Okay. And then this bright yellow is how we're going to finish. See the way this is a little bit too bright here. So I'm going to dull it down. And then we're going to get some nice bright lemon like we started with. So where the light is hitting it. So if I turn the light up here, the light will hit just, you'll see where it's hitting up there as well. And then we have here. Lovely. And soften that in. Good. Now you could spend all day. You could spend all day. But let yourself walk away from it too. I'm going to mix in this yellow and orangey shade. So we've got nice lemon yellow, but not as white lemony. And I'm going to fill in a wee bit more there. Sometimes it's a bit like whenever we're painting the flowers. I'll turn the light down again. And I say to you, or whenever I'm teaching you abstract, and I say, just just do a big bit of colour over it, you know, just get the colour on there. So it seems quite dark and contrasty in what I'm recording here, but it's not as dark as that in real life. Good, last little bits. Let the colour come over. Beautiful. Before we go, take some white into that yellowy shade that you've got. Loads of white into it. Turn out your brush on its side and let there be like a little bit of a lemony shade shadow coming through. There you go. Just a little bit. Even if we go over it again, it still implies that we're there. That is your little quick little lemon demo. We could spend all day pulling the paint out here, but I'm just going to come back to that grey tones here. And really things that are, oh, wait a minute. You see under there? Look, I've totally forgotten about that. Didn't mean that to be as dark. I'm just using my very light grey for this. There we go. Now we want to smooth this. You want your lemon to be smooth. Nice. Well, that's your little lemon still life. It's just a quick demo of how to bring a lemon to life. Things that we did which are important are, you can see I'm just dabbing. There we go. So we have lemon, we have our light and shade, we have our colours all mixed from red, blue, yellow, black and white. White, I would encourage you to use a better grade than what I used, but look at all the colours that you mixed. Contrasty, but a really good way to make a loose painting in a very short space of time. Give it a go, subscribe for more, follow me for more. I love teaching you art and I absolutely could do it all day.